8:05, so let's get going. I'm going to share a different screen for just a second. Perfect. Yay, we have some people using emojis already. I love it. So what we're here to talk about today, I'm particularly excited because this topic is near and dear to my heart. I see a couple people actually that are in attendance that I've worked with before. So hi, friends, and hi, new friends. So a lot of customers are asking about, I want to create a programmatic approach with WalkMe, or I want to take this digital adoption thing to the next level. I want to scale it. I want to maximize my ROI. So what does this mean to take a digital adoption approach from project to program? What does program maturity and excellence look like? So today I'm so excited, and I'll introduce our speakers in a second, but we're speaking with some pioneers in digital adoption, some experts, and taking a closer look at how they've evaluated the current state of their program using a maturity model, and how they've planned and executed on a course of action that drives their program towards this ideal state. And they're also going to talk about how they're establishing a successful foundation now for continual growth and iteration. So a quick note about today's agenda. So we'll go through intros. We'll introduce our wonderful speakers from Accenture. We'll have a panel discussion where you all will be able to submit questions, and we'll have just a nice little Q&A, and then we'll do a wrap up. So who am I? I am going to be your facilitator for today. I work on our strategic practices team here at WalkMe. And for the last few years, I've been helping customers feel empowered to create this programmatic approach with digital adoption, to go from these kind of siloed projects into a more enterprise embedded strategy. And so Accenture is, again, just a wonderful example of this journey. And I'm really thrilled to have them share details of their story today. And in a minute, I'll bring them on stage, but we have Scott Yergin and Matt Csaki, and they are both from Accenture. Scott is a senior manager, and Matt is a WalkMe, an analytics strategy lead as a part of the change management COE. Couple of housekeeping things. We are recording. You can watch this again in the community, and for all your friends who had other less important things to do, you can share this with them via the community as well. We have a couple of different controls and chat things that I want to go over. So those of you who've been a part of this pro show, you know the drill. But for those of you who are newer, or we have a new platform, as you may have seen, there's a couple of different controls that you should be familiar with. So the first one is the two chats. So there's one chat called the session chat, which is where you can chat with each other. You can react to things, kind of type your reactions, etc. There's another session or section on the top on the right-hand side of your screen that says Ask the Speaker. And so this is where, when we get to the Q&A and the panel portion, you can submit your questions. And you can also, kind of Reddit style, you can upvote questions that you like. So this will really help me as a moderator understand what do people really want to hear about, so I can facilitate the discussion to your expectations and your needs. We'll try to get to as many questions as we can, but for any that we don't, we are going to continue these discussions in the community. So we'll start some threads and make sure that y'all can continue to collaborate and connect. The last sort of control that you all should know about is right underneath the main screen that you're seeing, there should be a chance to use some emojis. And so I want to give this a quick test run to make sure, because I love the emoji feature. So if Scott says something particularly fire, like this is something that resonates with you, you're like, yes, that is excellence right there. Maybe you throw a fire in the emoji chat. Awesome. I see some hundreds, see some fires, lots of fires. We got it. Okay, good. And then if you have any other just Q&A, technical issues, et cetera, anything like that, just throw it in the chat and we have some people on the back end that can fix it for you. Okay. And we already did this. One more housekeeping thing before we jump in. So we have a couple of upcoming events, just a quick plug from a community team perspective. The Watch Me Build series has gotten really good feedback from our customers who are, or our specific contacts from our customers who are doing more of the tactical and technical leads on WalkMe implementation. So our customer success team will answer your topic specific questions and also just have a little bit more hands-on guidance and actionable tips from a builder perspective. So we have 2 of those coming up, one on May 18th and one on June 8th. You can look up specific details and sign up at community.walkme.com/events. We have another pro show on June 14th about diversifying your digital adoption solutions. So while this presentation has something for everyone, program managers, project leads, builders, that session will be really specifically geared towards people who are owning the building for their WalkMe solution. So really looking forward to that one as well. All right. And with that, I think we can go ahead and introduce our speakers. We're going to have them share their story first, and then we'll go through the panel. Hi, Scott. Hi, Matt. Welcome.
Hello.
Of course. So you can go ahead.
Flip over.
Perfect.
Yeah, hopefully we see this. So thank you, Leah, for that introduction. I'm going to jump to our intro slide as well. Matt and I are super excited to kind of be on stage here and share our Accenture story here. So I'm going to do some intros real quick. So will Matt, and then we'll go on to kind of hitting our content. So kick it off. Scott Yergin, 33 years with Accenture, doing lots of roles, mainly in technology delivery. Right now, I'm our WalkMe product and technical lead. As you can see behind me, I'm also a golfer. So if you happen to know that, what hole that is and what famous course that is, go ahead and chat that out if you happen to know. So that's what I'm doing when I'm not doing WalkMe stuff, which I really enjoy. So let me pass it off to Matt here. He'll introduce himself and get things going.
Thank you so much, Scott. Thanks, Leah, for kicking it off. Really excited to be here, team. My name is Matt Csaki. I've been with Accenture for about 16 years, doing a lot of work in the consulting side and then on our internal journey and change management group as well. And I look forward to talking to you a little bit about that. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Accenture, and then I'm going to talk to you about what we do from a journey and change management perspective that made WalkMe so appetizing and appealing to us, and why we were so eager to kind of pursue WalkMe and to get on this journey ourselves. Then Scott's going to talk to you a little bit about our journey itself and how we evolved, and then we'll jump into some questions later. So looking forward to that. Scott, I see there's a bunch of golf course suggestions here. Looking forward to which one's the truth. So Accenture, we're a very large global professional services company. We do technology consulting, strategy consulting, management consulting, all sorts of consulting for large and small businesses, organizations, governments around the world, right? So most of you may have heard of us. We are, working in competition with other big 4 consulting firms and things like that. We have a global reach of around 200 cities in around 50 countries with over 730,000 employees that continues to grow as we grow Accenture and as we continue to drive value across the world. So Accenture in journey and change management, right? That's kind of what came together for our WalkMe journey here. So with journey and change management, what we strive to do at Accenture is to really connect our employees, right? The resources that actually need to get the work done with the tools and the technology to get that work done. So when we first were discovering WalkMe, thinking about what we wanted to accomplish with it and things like that and how we wanted to go forward, the journey and change management team, our center of excellence that handles change management within Accenture, was super excited about the opportunity. I threw this quote here because I think it really sort of combines what we want to do without WalkMe and then now as well with WalkMe as our partner here. So our mission is to lead with a human-first approach to inspire Accenture employees to embrace change, right? To adopt new behaviors, use technology to the full to deliver value. It feels like that's probably the goal of all of us, doesn't it? Something that we can all kind of agree with, and we can think about, yeah, WalkMe is the kind of tool that can help us accomplish that, right? There's a lot that goes into change management, and I'll talk to you about that right here, and why we wanted to lead with change management as a part of our WalkMe solution, as a part of our Center of Excellence Foundation. All right. So leading with change, right, to deploy WalkMe, to build our COE, the reason why we embedded it within our change management group and not maybe within other technology support or, straight up technology management and development groups was because our change management group already has established ways of working, right? We already have stakeholder buy-in. We already understand the type of content we have to create in order to drive change for these technologies. And WalkMe for us is another great tool that really fits into our toolkit so that we can utilize it in order to drive that change more effectively. So we are able to take advantage of our own long established learning and engagement best practices. We were able to use that to drive value and adoption almost instantly using WalkMe, where we didn't have to really upskill folks how to think about training strategy, communication strategy, to think about how do end users need to be supported when they're impacted and things like that. And the reason is because that's built into the foundation of what we do in journey and change management and why WalkMe was so exciting for us, to be honest. I've got a couple bullets here, boxes that I wanted to walk you through to help you understand more even about what's passionate to us in the journey and change group and how this aligns to what we're trying to do with WalkMe overall, and probably the same for you guys. So that top left box, right? Enable Accenture businesses and employees to work, collaborate, create, and connect in a seamless way, right? Leveraging our technology. So if that's one of our goals, right, of as our organization, it feels like WalkMe is a no-brainer there, right? To implement that, to help accomplish that goal, because we're then leveraging, right, not only new technology with WalkMe, but also we're using that to help connect and really make sure that our team can use applications seamlessly from one to another, process to process, and really take advantage of them the way that they're intended. Which leads me right to my favorite sort of quote or bullet. This statement really drives the type of work that I think we do in journey and change management at Accenture, as well as me personally. I always anchor to this when I think about, like, what are we trying to do here when it comes to a new technology that's rolling out that we have to support, or really with any even sort of smart tip, for example. Like, what is the intent of that? What's the outcome supposed to be, for example? And so, the quote here is that we want to change mindsets and behaviors to employees using our technology in the way it was intended. So something was built, right, or we brought in a tool and we said, hey, we need to use this so that we can achieve this outcome. But what often happens is that it does many things, and we use it for some things, not for others, but we don't really drive towards that intended outcome, and we don't measure it. So with WalkMe, we're really able to laser focus on getting those end users where they need to be, driving insights so that we're able to make sure that it's being used as intended. And then if not, we can make decisions, right? Data-driven decisions to take action, do an intervention, communicate to those end users, make sure they get the help and support they need in order to use the tool as it's intended so that we get our investment back, right? On why we brought that tool in, why we built that tool ourselves, things like that. There's always a purpose, right, that we want to really drive towards to get that return on investment. And WalkMe definitely helps there. So, of course, another easy one, provide the help and support for using our technology when and where and how it's intended. So built in right there for WalkMe as well. So what we think of that is, like, how are we going to make sure that when a new technology is deployed, when new users, they're able to, it's turned on, they know it's coming, they know how to use it already, and they're able to use it, right? And they're able to, again, get that outcome from it the way that we intended originally. So obviously putting WalkMe in the middle of that instead of a job aid or a training ahead of time, that real-time performance support, super powerful in order to get that information and support to those end users right where they need it. So I won't drain all of them, right? But in general, you kind of get the picture of what we wanted to accomplish by bringing the journey and change management sort of center of excellence, our ways of working, the way that we go about our business anyways, with or without WalkMe. Obviously, bringing WalkMe into that is a huge benefit for everyone, our end users, and the folks who have to come up with these strategies and execute the change as well. In the last bullet, I guess, like leverage innovative change management and adoption techniques to drive the greatest outcome, right? So if we weren't considering the latest in digital, in our DAP, things like that, then we're not even doing our jobs on its face, right? And it's a disservice to our end users as well as to ourselves. So the reason I'm, hammering this is because this is really, the foundation of what we do within our group at Accenture. And, as you'll hear more about, our journey, you want to ground it. And this was like our purpose, right, of how we want to use WalkMe to really revolutionize the way that we can support our end users from end to end across, our products. So I know I've been talking a lot about change management. Now let's bring WalkMe fully into the picture with the story, right? So birth of a COE. So I'm going to walk you through kind of a quick version of our story. Let's sort of tell them what you're going to tell them, and then Scott's going to tell them what I told them in the next session here and give you a little bit more detail on how it evolved. So WalkMe is a change tool. I just kind of went through what we do as a change management team, what we think about, why we want to accomplish those things. And so, again, it's a pretty straightforward proposition to bring WalkMe in as a change tool there, because it can give us that, seamless communication to end users, real-time performance support. It can, provide insights on how our users are using not only the application, but also the support we're trying to provide them, right? So picture, you create a job aid. I'm sure a lot of you folks have, thought about like, well, what's the best way I can get information to my end users? Job aid is a pretty typical way to do it. You've got a static job aid. Maybe it's out on a support site somewhere, but hey, I need that help right now, right? I'm in this tool. I don't really have the link to get to the site, to get to the job aid, to read the job aid right here, right now. What do I have instead is maybe a dynamic smart tip, right? That tells me, hey, I noticed you entered this, and because of that, you probably need to know this, right? Oh, actually, yes, I do need to know that. Wow, I have that right at point of need, right? So using that as a change tool to sort of get that last mile, as they say, which is the toughest in any infrastructure, to the end user so that they can just get that support right away is what we're in the business of, right? And WalkMe really enables that for us. And not only to see like, yeah, I got that support I needed, but then we're able to also immediately see, hey, is that support resonating? Are folks utilizing it? Is that something that we expect, we can repeat in other areas, that we can learn from, things like that, and that we can, again, make data-driven decisions based on the type of work we're already doing. So WalkMe as a change tool in that aspect was really a no-brainer for us, because we knew that it was going to be able to provide the similar or better change management experience. In addition to the whole journey, so we knew we wanted the tool. Then what did we do? So around April 2022, we were really heavily engaged with WalkMe. We were trying to understand, how we could best utilize their services, their products within our ecosphere, and how we could really take that then as a journey and change group to all the technology organizations that we support to make sure that, they could take advantage of it as quickly as possible. So we decided we needed to pilot this and design approach, right? So once we started to get into it, get the nuts and bolts, to see what's kind of going on and understand, how could we kind of take this to scale, we decided we needed to build a center of excellence, right? We needed to establish, a central hub, right, where we could spoke off of it, right, but provide a consistent set of information, a consistent source of truth, right, around, how the process works, who you should talk to, how you can get trained, how you can get enabled, things like that. So we started to build out our portal, our things that really support this whole COE from a central information perspective, right? A repository that allows us to drive, one source of truth to all stakeholders and make sure that we are able to manage, all of the customers that were going to come in, all the requests, and then, start to also manage the huge governance that is, all the users enabled, all of the live systems, all of these things that go with large WalkMe implementations. And so that led us to start to design and create the COE. You're going to hear more about that again, of course. But who's in the COE? What is it? Good question. We've got 3 leads, right? We've got the product lead. That's Scott. You heard from him just on the top. You're going to hear from him more. So what is that? That's like the sort of the technological enabler. He's the behind the scenes sort of back end lead that makes sure that, WalkMe's working as a technology for us, that the extensions are deployed, that we have, all of our legal and data requirements all set. Basically that, we're able to connect WalkMe with our technology and make sure it works for everybody. And then that we have processes in place, when things have to evolve and change and things like that. So that's Scott's our product lead there. You've got your program lead. That's myself. Hi there. What my role is to sort of be the face of WalkMe for the stakeholders, to be the vision of it, of what is the COE going to be? How are we going to grow? Where are we going next? What is our actual what is our business case, right? Like, why are we driving this and what do we expect to accomplish? And how do we take that to both our stakeholders and to our leadership, right? So how do we make sure that this COE can continue to grow, but also, have an eye sort of up and down throughout that? And then finally, we have our project solution lead. Our solution lead is a gentleman named Nick. Some of you guys might have met him out in San Francisco at some point for the certification. Great guy. So what Nick does is he's there sort of on the ground with our end users. He's our solution engineer. He's going to be working with our projects from day one to make sure that they understand, what they're trying to do, really help push them in the right direction of best practices, make sure that we're bringing best practices out of our build and back into our COE so that we can bring that to the next groups. And essentially, he's going to be the person on the ground to make sure that we're, driving the right sort of insights, the right, builds, things like that, so that we're getting the most out of, WalkMe once it's actually enabled and on the ground. And then finally, we have our builders, right? So what do they do is, of course, build. Without them, be nothing. So our broad set, we have a handful of builders that we have in-house that are part of our team that we can deploy for, high profile, high complexity projects that need, some hyper support, things like that. And then we also have a set of builders that are available for normal project teams, right? That are part of those project teams that are like training developers, communications developers that already do change management for these programs, but now they're going to adjust their skill set. They're going to upskill WalkMe and they're going to execute WalkMe as well as their typical training and things like that they would have perhaps built in the past, right? So that's how we're going to build up that builder community and create sort of a foundation of excellence across the board so that as this grows, right, we're not only building, a team that can, deploy WalkMe and things like that, but we're also sort of building a culture, right, of, hey, how can we most effectively use this for our end users that now have a much better understanding of the support they're getting, and they're starting to feel great because they're getting more consistent support across all of the applications and things like that. So it's all a growing process, but it all really comes together in a beautiful way, and we're really excited about it. Let me talk about some of the numbers on the bottom really quickly, and then I'll throw it to Scott. So you see on the bottom left here, 250,000 users enabled with WalkMe right now. So a big number. That's across 48 systems, some big ones like Salesforce, ServiceNow, SAP, things like that, as well as a handful of custom programs, dashboards, our own technology that we use to run Accenture's business and things like that. So 250,000 is a lot, 100%, but only 1/3 of our actual workforce, if you can believe it, right? So going back to that 740,000 number of employees. So we have quite a ways to go still, but we're super excited about the year of growth that we've had. Over 2,800, probably closer to 3,000 production items right now. We've got, our builder community has grown to over 100 overall builders who've gone through training, who know how to use the editor, things like that. So as I said, that's sort of our foundation, that cultural foundation that really allows us to think differently so that we can really drive insights and things like that and lead with, the solutions and not just change management. And then finally, 150 demos and presentations. We'll call it 151 now, but getting the word out, right? Spreading that word, making sure that people understand, what is our purpose? How are we here to help them? And how can we help them, right? How can we enable their projects to take advantage of this as well? So hopefully you got a quick idea of what Accenture is, a quick idea of what change management at Accenture is, and then more importantly, how we're using WalkMe combined with our foundation of change management to really drive our COE to the future. I'll throw it over to Scott to learn. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Matt. I would like to tell you that all this that Matt talked about magically just happened to us. It did not. We had a journey, and that's what I'd like to take you through a little bit here. So I'm going to take you a little bit back in time and show you how really we got up to where Matt was talking about. And we're going to use this maturity matrix, or at least part of it, the maturity matrix model that WalkMe has, to show you about a year and a half worth of progression that we took to get here. And hopefully some of the parts that I'm going to talk about will resonate with you and give you some additional ideas on maybe how you can continue to advance your program as well. So let's get right into a few key moments in our journey from emerging to formalizing here. So this represents about 8 months worth of activity for us. So let's anchor first, why are we doing this? Matt talked a lot about that. We knew the value. We actually go to market with WalkMe and bring this to clients as well. So we have a whole another part. While we're focused internally, we have another group in Accenture that's been doing this for many years, and we truly believe in the value of it. Our Accenture tagline right now, I think we call it a tagline, is "Let there be change." It was almost invented for us, but "Let there be change" really kind of says, hey, if doing something like this really is part of just normal growth of a healthy organization, we believe. So change is good, not change for just change's sake, but for the right reasons, and it certainly fit into all the things we were doing. Our capabilities, we are looking at those. We have the change business. We've been in that for a long time. We do consider this another tool in the toolbox. So as far as bringing about digital adoption, this was adding into that toolbox for our people, and very excited about it. And we knew they were ready for it. They're ready for these new technologies, and we could always leverage that existing go-to-market capability we have. And we do. We have a relationship with them where we can leverage some of their insights on what they've learned going to different clients, the skills that they have. So we keep in good contact with them. We're separate, but we certainly have a relationship because we're all the same company here. This led to an initial pilot. So about a 6-month pilot with maybe 5,000 to 6,000 users, really the idea to get the exposure to WalkMe to our change practitioners, help them understand what WalkMe is all about, get them to kind of feel it, figure out what is it that we need to have going forward in our bigger program. No one was really full-time in this. It was just our change resources handpicking 5 or 6 different applications that they wanted to do. We had, heroes in pockets, basically, is what you get, right, to make it all work. People who can get a little more interested, spend a little more of that extra time, really figuring it out and having that deeper view of what WalkMe is. So what did it tell us? It really told us how we want to move forward. We already knew we were going to move forward. It was really what kind of structure did we need around it? We definitely recognized we needed some full-time resources. Thus, I got a role, so this was good. But we needed dedication to it. Part-time, everybody did not work here. So we've kicked the tires a bit. Now let's go push it further. And we did that through formalizing our enablement team. So that's what Matt talked about too. We have our COE or we really, our job was to enable it, because our initial structure was very much a hybrid approach. We had our 3 team members. We had a couple dedicated builders. We threw a sign up in an internal website to say, here we are, we've got WalkMe, you can try it out. We developed some of those standards, a brand, overall processes, quick start areas for businesses to come and say, okay, I want to do this. We developed and started to deliver some education to our audiences, not only builders to make sure that they were getting trained up, but also those program managers, project managers on the business to say, if you want to do this, here's how you do it, and you would go do it. We weren't running their projects, but we were enabling them to move forward. So doing all that, that was maybe a 3-month activity to kind of get that capability stood up. So we moved fairly quickly through that, but we also had the organization. We didn't have to stand up the org that did it. We were already there. That led into, we call it our large scale pilot, which we are now. That's what's getting us up into the 250,000 users. That we still consider that a pilot right now. But it was go broad across applications. Our intake process was loose. If you had energy, if you were going to kind of stick with it and had the resources to do it, we would enable you and let you move forward. So we weren't going hard on an intake thing. We were certainly pushing for our larger platforms. So those applications where we knew we had a lot of people in it, but we were accepting everybody really. We are also, what ended up happening was we were focusing a lot on the executive level of our organization, which gave us in the end more value because typically their time is more valuable. It just from a cost perspective, but it also gave us great exposure to the level where they would go, hey, we need to do this over here. So they know the organization a little further or a little broader and could help spread the word. And that word definitely did spread. We did a lot of road shows, demos, those kind of things to find opportunities. We had plenty. About, I would say 6 months into this, we had plenty of opportunities kind of coming at us. Really, that energy had caught on. Lots of people were coming to us. About 8 months in, really, it started that we started to feel a change, I would say. We saw those early builds come back now with real data, the real outcome kind of measurements that really then started to hit home with some of our groups, where it wasn't just execute and be done. It was, what are we getting out of this? And look, we see the data of what we're getting out of it. So not only showed us where we were doing great, it also showed where we weren't doing so great and the mistakes that we were making along the way with those builds and how people are thinking about it. So let's move forward here too and say, okay, we weren't without our barriers, our roadblocks, our problems. Hopefully some of these resonate with you. We had our issues along the way, and so I want to highlight some. These are probably the bigger ones. But as we kind of got in from that formalizing to scaling, communication, as you'd expect, more awareness, more interest got out there, the questions start coming, and you guys probably get this as well. How do I move forward? Who can do this for me? How long does it take? Do you got a template for that? What do we start with? What's the cost? All of that. Easy to answer ad hoc when it's kind of slowly coming at you, but as it picked up, we realized we have a situation here we gotta deal with. Selling the shift. So what am I talking about here? We would often hear, hey, we got a new release coming out. We think WalkMe would be great to teach our users, or we think recreating this job aid in WalkMe would be great. They were also used to building kind of training or publishing information to the users, kind of doing it, be done with that, go on to the next project. So the shift we really had to start talking about was moving from the execution-based activity to one that's more outcome-based. It's think of it as it's a lifestyle. It's not a one-time project. And they needed to really believe in that, commit to that cycle, get into the flywheel. And that's something we realized we had to start selling that a lot more. Calculating value, always a thing I see in community chats and stuff around calculating value. How do we know we are getting the value that we desire? We're getting the outcome that we want. In the past, it was execution. You did the training. It was executed. People came, good, done, counted as a success. But now we're thinking about this a little differently, digging deeper into those desired outcomes where we really find the deep value and the ongoing value. And we needed to make that a bigger part of our kind of ecosystem here. The building capabilities, we had great energy from our change practitioners wanting to do this. And the business partners as well. So the business came in and they said, we want to do the build. So they all, people get excited. I want to make things appear on the screen for our users. But there's certainly a learning curve. There's certainly a mindset that people are really good at it. Some people go, this is too confusing. What we did see really was part-time builders were not coming up to speed fast enough or as fast as the businesses wanted to implement. So again, we noticed a change that we had to make to support that. last couple here, or complexity with a big organization like ours, thousands of applications and even more stakeholders. The complexity you have, it's often, you feel like you're walking uphill in the mud or something, because our biggest challenge with applications and process is getting stakeholders, all the stakeholders that are interested in a platform, on the same page. It wasn't really about doing the build. It was getting them on the same page, understanding what can be done, and thinking about it as a whole for that platform instead of just one little part of a screen. And then lastly, I'll mention GPDR and privacy. So we all are dealing with various privacy things. Accenture being across 40 or more countries, most of our applications are global. So we really had to deal with and get approval kind of from a privacy perspective. And because they're global apps, we had the situation where you really have to follow the tightest regulations, no matter where that user is, because we had to do that. So we realized we couldn't rely on every application coming to have to go do that themselves. So we needed to do something from our own perspective internally to give that benefit to everybody. So let's move from that into kind of scaling. And so I've listed some key shifts that we did here, but I'm also going to talk about, as I hit these, those barriers that we have and how we addressed some of those barriers and roadblocks along the way. So hopefully you'll catch those as I go through it. Beginning this was a big deal for us. Shift from a problem value first to a problem and value first approach. So what really this looks like is, don't lead with a demo. Even though that everybody wants a demo, show me a demo, show me what it looks like. I just need to see it. And we are actively saying, I'm not going to show you, because it doesn't really matter. What really matters is, what problems are we trying to solve? What's the business process that's not working? Stop there. It doesn't matter what a widget looks like on the screen. What are your problems? And get them to talk about that first. Eventually, yes, you're going to give them a demo, give them an idea, but do that demo then in the context of addressing that problem, not look and see what WalkMe can do. And even though they want that bad, and like, I can't really think of it unless I see it, it's like, first tell me your problems, and at least I can show you that in the context of that problem. Then where's the data? So we often ask too, then in that same vein, how do you know this is a problem? Show me the data that has it. Maybe you don't even know. Okay, so let's track it first. And this approach really helps us in that challenge around value. So leading with problems and talking about value in the context of that problem is much better than simply around engagement of an element on a screen. Yes, that's going to give you some value, but really, what is that value? And do it in the context of the problem. Does it make calculating value super easy? It does not. Like, we all know that's a complicated thing. There's lots of potential value areas that you got to figure out, and we're still evolving around that. But focusing on the problem, I think, makes that value proposition and the calculating of it more focused. We move on to, we recognize a stronger central governance was needed. Our enablement team for WalkMe, we needed to make sure the opportunities that were coming at us were going to be successful, have value, can be sustained, get that buy-in to that paradigm shift that we've been talking about. And it's not a one and done project. So our messaging changed there. It was more around long-term success and value-driven outcomes, and we, as opposed to just get WalkMe on there. And we understand too, we needed to provide more services to each of these programs and opportunities to get them into the flywheel. GPR and privacy, the privacy stuff, we went ahead and solved that internally for WalkMe so that we could kind of just say, hey, everybody, here's the rules you got to follow. And this has been, it doesn't happen overnight, maybe a several-month journey to really ramp our capabilities, create our messaging, strengthen our governance. We're getting better at our talking points and sticking to them, no matter how hard people go, just show me the demo. But we're doing better and better at this every day, and it really does make a difference in the way people see things. Shift our builder capability. That's one we talked about. The part-time builder, like, we knew as we got into these bigger builds, it wasn't enough or moving fast enough for the business. We added a couple more dedicated builders to our pool. So we realized that hybrid approach with kind of we were maybe too decentralized. So we're still hybrid, but maybe a little more centralized than we were decentralized. So we kind of shifted that. The trigger on that really was just saying, hey, we need you to do the build. We're not ready for it. So we recognize that we wanted to support that, and so we recognize that. We also recognize we needed to do more than just the build. The build is only part of it, but also the insights. How did that work? What do we do next? How well is this working? And do that evaluation for the business to show them this is the flywheel that you're in, and this is that, and that are we getting outcomes? Lastly, we formalized a lot of education for our decentralized builders. And one of the ways we did that is through an internal WalkMe community. So we did start one of those up. We needed better communication. We started a Teams channel. That's what we use for a lot of these things. For formal standards, like here's what, things you can look up. Here's the informal part as well, talk amongst each other. We hold weekly office hours for anyone interested in WalkMe, not just builders, but it could be, any breadth of anybody who wants to know anything about WalkMe. We created community champions program to help drive that engagement. We stood this up. This is a couple weeks to stand up, and really we want it to evolve where the community takes it. So the best here is, we think, is don't overthink it. Let the community, get it going. The better thing is get it going and let the community go where it needs to go. And that's really how we're following that one. So this is our journey. Lots here. Hopefully it gives you something to think about in your journey. And let's flip it back to Matt, and we'll do a little bit of wrap up on some takeaways. You there, Matt? There we go.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you running through that. So after we've heard a little bit about journey and change, a little bit about how we started the COE and the journey of how we went from here to there, essentially, we'll leave you with a couple items that I think Scott just really touched on. Our takeaways. So flexibility, right? As the COE grows, things are going to change. You're going to need to grow with the COE, right? You're going to need to adjust your intent. You're going to need to adjust your sort of goals. You're going to need to adjust the way that you guys are set up, and you're going to need to give yourself freedom to pivot, right? So just like when we work with our technology partners and they talk about agile technology and agile development and everything agile, change management is agile as well, right? And as we develop our WalkMe, items, our strategies, we need to utilize the data and the insights to take data-driven decisions based on what we're seeing and what the outcomes are for the actual technology, as well as for the interventions that you're executing yourself. So essentially stay flexible and go where the energy is, right? So make sure that you're working with partners that to work with you on this, that you guys have a shared outcome, and that you aren't just dropping in WalkMe any place that it might fit willy-nilly, right? That you're working towards a goal with a partnership to build value, right? Number two, so you're your best champion. You're going to be the person who knows, what the goals are for your COE, what you're trying to accomplish, as well as what, most likely the best solutions are going to be for your end users and for the programs that you're working with from a WalkMe perspective, right? So, make sure that you identify the value that you can bring to the table, start to showcase that, and make sure that you bring those success stories and that value creation back to the folks that you've been talking to over and over again. In my long-term experience, it is a rule, right? That you can have the best intent, the best presentation, the best bullet points, whatever. But until someone sees it has happened and this was the result, they're not really ever going to believe it's possible for them, right? So showing quick wins and things like that is the best way to continue to drive innovation and change in your space and build that value. And then finally, in order to drive the consistency and the scale, you have to formalize something, right? Because you're going to have to get the same messages out to everybody. You're going to have to make sure that people are delivering in a similar way so that it adds that consistent value for your end users, and so that they can have, consistent ability to understand, what's coming in the future and things like that. And then finally, you're going to want to bring a consistent message back to your leadership, right? Back to your stakeholders. You want to make sure that essentially you're creating a culture of WalkMe, right? So that people know what they should expect, how they should expect it, and that you can just get to work rather than have those discussions over and over again, right? Getting your stakeholders to understand the benefits and the value is really going to increase engagement through word of mouth. We've seen that over and over again, and definitely a key takeaway. So thank you guys so very much for listening here, and we look forward to your questions. I'll pass it back over to Leah, I think.
All right. Thank you both so much. Wow. I could listen to you two talk all day. I'm sure I speak for attendees. It's so interesting to just get a behind the scenes look at this kind of thing. I know I've gotten so many questions from customers that are just, how are our best in class people doing it? Like what does good look like? So thank you for just the attention to detail in that presentation. Also, I love how you use the maturity matrix and a maturity framework to kind of anchor your program development and use this to continually track your progress. So actually, I'm going to put in the session chat for any of you that aren't familiar with the maturity matrix or maybe just want to give it a look, give it a refresh for your own organization. That's a link in the chat to the DAP Blueprint, which is available on our community, and specifically the maturity matrix page, which has some downloadables that you can use and assess your own maturity going forward. So I love that you both just talked about, like, one of my biggest takeaways from that is how embedded digital adoption is in your organization. You're not looking at digital adoption as the separate entity. It's something that, to your point, Matt, it's building off of the innovative change management and adoption techniques that were already within journey and change management. And so you called adding it to the toolbox, which I think is brilliant. And the first question I want to ask, we have about 10 minutes for questions here. First question I want to ask is, you talked about product lead, program lead, solution lead, these wonderful, brilliant digital adoption professionals that you have as a part of your team. If people in the audience, if they have limited capacity, but they want to start this programmatic approach, what kinds of resources do you think are the most critical to start with? And then what are kind of the most important strategies you're using to build this capacity and specialization over time?
It's a great question. Scott, I'll start maybe, and then you can give your backbone there. So I think the most important thing at first, right, is going to be, what is it that you're trying to accomplish? So if it's that you really are trying to scale a large COE to drive different projects all at the same time, all the time, then I think that the key is you need to have, some key stakeholder internally that to kick that off, that actually can drive that messaging, that can think through, what type of stakeholders need to be aware, that sort of has the ability to maneuver through that space so that the different technology owners, business owners, audience owners, that everyone can be on the same page. And then I think that it's key to have a central place just for information, right? One of the key issues I had in getting the message out and in landing it consistently was, at first we had a PowerPoint deck, of course, and it changed often because we had a lot of people asking great questions that we said, let's add that, or, things of that nature. And we said, what, this deck is out of control. No one's going back to look at it. We have 3 versions now. So we created a portal, a centralized portal, which was a walkme.accenture.com internally, so that we could say, hey, you know what? All of your questions are literally answered right here. And this new one you've asked, we've already added it, right? You can see that. You can see the approach. You can see, the success we've had all in one place. And what that allowed us to do was, remove half of our follow-up questions, because now we could enable that first key stakeholder to drive those conversations as well. So I think that, to me, of course, you'll need a builder. And then I'll throw it to Scott, because the enablement of the technology, depending on your organization could be much more difficult than you expect as well. And you'll need a strong lead there to ensure that everything stays connected. So I'll let Scott talk about that.
Naturally, I'll say that it's my role is the most important. That's really what we want to convey here, right? No, it does. Certainly, and it could, if it's a small thing, I think even whoever, if you want to get somebody to be a builder to also be your platform kind of technical lead, but setting those standards, getting it so people know, from a build perspective, what I'm going to go do. Can I even do it? How do I even just make it show up? There's a lot that goes into that, and certainly a part of it. I think there's two sides I think that are critical. It is what Matt was talking about. There's some kind of program level, why are we doing this, and get the right groups in there understanding why, and have the same vision on what you do with it, because everybody will have their idea of like, oh, I think I'm going to do this with it, and then it's just the enablement part. You clearly can't move forward without that. So you could get by with those two as being the kind of necessary, and then you just keep iterating on those, spin that up as you need to. And the excitement, what we found, it'll just happen. People want to go, how do I get on there? How do I do that? To be part of that, because it is so much different than what they've done before, yet it's like almost the satisfaction because of that you can see the outcome and measure that outcome, makes it even more fulfilling.
Good answer. And I think what you just said, Scott, it leads into another question I had around prioritization and kind of if you have people knocking down your door or if you have to go out to the business. So I guess in your first year of the WalkMe COE, did you find you mostly had opportunities coming in, or did you have an outbound marketing strategy? And then, regardless, how did the prioritization of those opportunities start and sort of change over time?
Yeah. Let me start with that, Matt. You can jump in. We used our change management organization truly as an anchor there too, where we already have. I mean, that's a 330 person organization that has the relationships, knows about what we're doing across the internal applications within Accenture. So certainly use them initially as where do they see the good opportunities to come. Our intake process was, I'll say in the beginning, was super loose. We didn't have anybody fill out the form and prove that they could be there, but it was kind of not necessary for a couple of reasons. Because we were going decentralized mainly, we weren't resource constrained on, say, who was going to build, because that was going to be part of their job as a project. We're going to teach you how to build. You're going to do that. So you're going to run your own projects. We are enablers. So with that vision, we could kind of take on more than maybe what you could handle, because we weren't driving all those efforts. Is this changing? Yeah, we're definitely leading a little more with value. So in the beginning, it was everybody, let's go. And it took some advertising in the beginning. I think right now we have stopped advertising, because the flywheel is spinning out there as people just catch word of it enough. Like, we have so many opportunities coming in that we don't really do a lot of campaigning anymore. It just naturally is happening. So, which is great. We don't have to do that, and we get a lot of good opportunities coming at us. But we are going to move more into weeding out as they come in and say, what's the value and how do you know? And we're going to lead with that and say, I don't think you're going to get what you want out of here right now for us to say we want to afford, put more licenses in that area. We are going to be a little stingier as we grow and get the right value in the right places.
Yeah, well said. I'll add a little bit that so our word of mouth campaign, I went on a roadshow essentially and met with every single person in our change management group, as well as all of our key technology stakeholders, to just explain, hey, we have this available now. I think it's going to be great. Here's how you could utilize it. If you're interested, here's a portal, check it out, let's go. And so I think that was a non-aggressive push. It was just, hey, this is another tool that's available. If it makes sense for you guys, let's go for it. And then we noticed, for example, on our support site, on that portal, so we have, let's say, 48 live systems, but we have, I think, over 1,500 unique people visiting that portal. right? So there's a lot of traffic that comes organically just through, enabling people with the message itself and getting that word of mouth out there. And then them coming to us, we've had many of these sort of non-traditional groups that look to drive, like a Six Sigma type group come to us to say, hey, we heard you have a cool tool that might help us. How can we put it across many, processes and things? That's been really great.
Fantastic. Yeah. And I think to build on that, I think we have time for one more, do short answers. I think it's really incredible how you've shifted that paradigm. And I saw some love in the chat for that problem-led discussion. So any quick tips for working with potential clients within the business that come to you saying, I want a smart tip, I want X solution? How do you sort of shift that conversation?
Yeah, I'll start there. Businesses love their applications, right? And I'm sure you see that. They know that they're all the great stuff their application can do. They are super passionate with that, and sometimes overly passionate. And we find, not everyone who has to get their job done care that much. And so it is really driving them down to what is really the problem and what helps. So sometimes it's a difficult conversation. And I think what we are finding now that we have data, enough activity that's happened that we have the data to show somebody came to us with the same kind of, I want to do a 22-step flow to teach users this section. And look, you're getting 5% of the people are doing it and 2% are making it to the end. That's not helping. And where you think it's helping, it's not. So the data is really helping us with that, to show, understand, your passion for what you have is great, but users just need to get their tasks done. And sometimes that's a little discouraging that they don't love they don't love Salesforce, the whole thing, as much as you love it. They just want to get their job done. And that's the message we're trying to tell them, is let's just meet them there.
Well said. I love that. Well, it looks like we're at time. If people have any more burning questions, feel free to put them in the Ask the Speaker section, and we can follow up on that via the community. But we can definitely continue this discussion. We'll post a debrief on the community, and maybe we'll get some comments from our stars, Matt and Scott, as well. But thank you both for your time. This has been incredibly educational, and I hope everyone who attended got something out of it, something applicable that you can do to start operationalizing for your own digital adoption approach.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, everybody. We appreciate it. Looking forward to chatting with you anytime. Take care.